As hard as they have tried, have Ping finally given up with this iron altogether? Well, with only a handful of pros still gaining them, and with players reverting back to models haven't come out since 2014, well, no wonder they stopped reinventing the wheel and went back to this thing. Oh my life, those numbers are ridiculous. Some of you by now might have seen the new prototype blueprint irons in the Tour Pro's hands. And the first question you might have, why does it not look anything like the old one? Well, with a lot of research looking through all of the current players' bags, I think Ping has surrendered and done something revolutionary. Build an iron that the players want to use. The biggest question you might have at this point is, what are Ping basing this new design on? Well, lucky for you, I think it's these, and they only cost £300 second hand. Typically when a brand brings out a brand new iron, it obviously looks cleaner, fresher, but at least gives a slight nod to the previous model. For example, the new P790 versus the old P790. It's like one of those old spot the difference puzzles that you used to get as a child. And normally that's the case, unless the brand feels like it's beating a dead horse. To answer your question, too long. That's how long. For example, when Titleist redesigned their whole AP series to the T series that we know now, which could be the first reason why the new Blueprint S forged iron looks nothing like this, and more of a love child between the i230 and the Ping iBlade. This is no coincidence, considering the amount of players using the 2016 iBlade on tour. However, I think we need to go older than the iBlade to get a true understanding of what the Blueprint Forged S irons are actually going to be like. But before we test that, we've got to stop putting down the Blueprint. This is a good iron. Tony Finau had an incredible season with it last year, and there are a sprinkling of players still using it, even though a few of them only using them at the bottom end of the bag. Which is one of the reasons why I'm making this video, as they're okay in value at the moment, but as the new release approaches, these are about to get cheaper. A lot cheaper. Oh. One-handed. Hey. I mean, when you catch these, just like I did there with the wedge from 90 odd yards, it's just pure filth, like your internet browsing history. But when you don't quite catch them out the middle, oh, I've actually flushed that. Oh, that's gone massively out the back. Right, take two, toe strike. Ow. Well then, they're just as unforgiving as your partner finding out how much your golf clubs actually cost. So you can imagine, if this is the distance dispersion when hit out the toe versus when hit out the middle, imagine what the dispersion on off-center hits is going to be with this thing. And big shout out to Replay Golf for obviously loaning me these blueprints for today's video. Now in 2016, this was the invention era of the sleek one-piece design. The tailor-made P790 spearheading it, and it took the public by storm. So no wonder other manufacturers tried to do the same. In Ping's case, the introduction of the Ping G700, i500, and of course these blueprints. The first biggest hurdle for these blueprint irons was the price, however, £1,500. And I'm not saying that's expensive for a forged iron in today's market, but when you compare it to the Ping demographic, and the only thing they want is forgiveness, and these are expensive and completely unforgiving, well, you can see where the problem somewhat arise. They had the same issue with the 2010 Answer Forge irons, which again look great, but cost £1,200. And when you compare it to the G15, cast, super forgiving, super high launching, great for mid to high handicappers for £800 retail, well, it doesn't take a genius to figure out which one sold more. So when it came to round two and the next forged installment with this blueprint iron, the design was to tempt that Titleist Callaway masochist that loves blading and thinning a 4-iron first thing in the morning with their very small butter knife. And apart from the 7 in the morning bit, we will attempt such shot. Oh, well, it wasn't thin, but you can just feel that was not flushed. At this point, you're probably thinking, Simon, stop it. I'm never going to use the blueprints. I'm never going to be able to hit them. If only there was something that could give me launch, spin, but with a bit more forgiveness, either coming out this year or something that was produced back in 2014. Well, good news, ladies and gentlemen, because the answer is there's both. Now, what I found incredibly interesting when I was doing my thorough research for this video was the comments Austin Eckroat made with Golf WRX on the new prototype irons. The prototype irons are a nice mix between those, the look of the blueprint, and then the feel and flight, and all of the spin numbers are exactly like my S55s, or at least pretty close. Essentially, in layman's terms, the S55, but a bit tarted up. They are a forged head, whereas the S55 is cast, so they're a little softer off the face than the S55s, but I actually prefer that. And it makes complete sense from Ping's standpoint. What irons are all these players going back to, reverting to, and can we update it to a forged head and finally put this all to bed? Matt Fitzpatrick even made a video on last year when he won the US Open with these S55s. And did I mention you can get these S55s for under £300? Hold your horses, because I want to show you the numbers that this iron head can produce and why so many players want it. Lastly, Austin said, overall, I like the look a little better than the S55s, but the numbers and spin rates were very consistent, slightly smaller than the S55s. The only issue in the past is that as soon as you de-loft something, make it more forgiving, give it a bigger head, that consistent spin numbers essentially go out the window. But with this bad boy that I have in my hands, well, that doesn't seem to be a problem whatsoever. I finally get it now, especially with the GC3 out on the course. I don't spin my 7-iron a lot. I don't hit down on the ball enough. But I'm spinning this thing at over 7,000 RPM, meaning I'm very rarely going to get any flyers with that amount of backspin. And all of that backspin is coming from a head design that's more forgiving than the original Ping blueprint, which typically in this game, you can't have the best of both worlds. Right, same length, even those stiff flex, slightly different shafts, and sadly different lie angles, black dot versus red dot. But let's get two decent ones away. Let's see the spin numbers of both. The original blueprint up first, 180 yards out. Well, I can't strike that better, to be fair. 6,699 with the blueprint. 128 ball speed, 180 carry. That is good spin, by the way. You can tell I've tried to fly that into the wind, but let me show you in a minute where it's finished up, because that I'm taking from 180 all day long. How many times in a row I could do it, I have no idea. Oh, I flushed that. The height on it as well. Sadly, the wind is taking it. That's not the ball flight for this particular hole. But look, more launch, more spin. You can tell I hit that one definitely better. 139 ball speed, and to be honest, I could have swung it faster. Now, obviously, the GC3 doesn't measure wind, so the ball flight of the blueprint was perfect for this particular shot. But from above, even though the S55 on the right looks a lot chunkier, that's because the Ping blueprint is a butter knife. This does look very much like a player's iron. Not to mention the 3 shots that I've hit with that 7-iron. Start of the video, middle of the video, and the end of the video, all were around 7,500. Okay, slightly different strikes off all of them, slightly different club head speeds, but the spin rate was exactly the same. And when it comes to distance control, that is what pros are looking for most. Therefore, Ping, rather than reinventing the wheel, has gone back to something that they know works. Unlike TaylorMade, however, who kind of just bought the patents of another company to make the next generation of their clubs. If you want to watch that, it's up here on the right hand side. Catch you guys later.